The acclaimed British author Sir Salman Rushdie has sustained serious injuries to his liver and an eye after being stabbed whilst taking to the stage at an arts centre in New York. The 75-year-old is currently on a ventilator and unable to speak. Police have named his attacker as Hadi Matar, a 24-year-old from New Jersey who is currently in custody. Our North America correspondent Nomia Iqbal reports.
The attack happened in full view of an audience. There was panic and confusion as Sir Salman Rushdie lay injured on the stage after being stabbed.
The suspect jumped onto the stage and attacked Mr. Rushdie, stabbing him at least once in the neck and at least once in the abdomen. Mr. Rushdie was provided medical treatment by a doctor who was in the audience until EMS arrived on scene. Mr. Rushdie was airlifted to a local trauma center and is still currently undergoing surgery.
Afterwards, eyewitnesses said they were in deep shock.
I was stunned by what I saw. I thought at first it was a stunt or some kind of a play that wasn't funny. And then when I realized what was actually happening, I was just completely taken by surprise. People were rising up out of their seats and gasping, crying and screaming, and this unseen, unheard of thing was happening on stage.
Sir Salman was rushed to hospital and taken by helicopter to the neighbouring state of Pennsylvania. He was due to speak at the Chautauqua Institute, a centre for arts and learning in Western New York, which celebrates freedom of expression, a value many praise Sir Salman for having.
Here's an individual who has spent decades speaking truth to power, someone who's been out there unafraid, despite the threats that have followed him his entire adult life, it seems.
Prime Minister Boris Johnson tweeted he was appalled that the author was stabbed while exercising a right that must always be defended. A 24-year-old man named Hadi Matar was arrested and taken into custody. Police have carried out a raid at his home in New Jersey. The motive is not known, but Sir Salman has long lived under the threat of being killed and had to go into hiding for nearly 10 years. His book, The Satanic Verses, published in 1988, was condemned as blasphemous by many Muslim countries. They considered his portrayal of Islam insulting. Iran's spiritual leader at the time called for Sir Salman's execution, offering a £2.5 million reward. Iran has now distanced itself from that, but the bounty remains.
Sir Salman Rushdie has spent a major part of his life protecting himself from extremist threats, to only now find himself inside this hospital. In a statement, his agent says the author will likely lose an eye and is currently being supported by a ventilator. Nomia Iqbal, BBC News, Pennsylvania.
Well, journalist Mark Summer is covering the story for Buffalo News in New York State. He spoke to a number of eyewitnesses immediately after the attack took place and gave me the latest.
Andrew Wiley, who is his literary agent, spoke several hours ago to say that things were not going well, that Salman Rushdie was on a ventilator. He had suffered liver damage from the stabbing. He had severed nerves in an arm, and he very possibly will lose an eye from this. He's on a ventilator as well. So obviously things are not going well. We have not heard a word yet from the medical team that was in surgery with Mr. Rushdie, and so there's still a lot of questions.
And what are the police saying?
Well, they apprehended a suspect at the time, moments after he rushed the stage. He's a 24-year-old man from New Jersey. We know nothing else beyond that at this point.
And you spoke to eyewitnesses, didn't you? What did they say about how events unfolded?
I did. So let me explain that for those who don't know. Chautauqua Institution is in a part of New York that is not New York City. A lot of people equate the two all the time, but we're actually, I'm in Buffalo, which is the largest city to the Chautauqua Institution. We're in Western New York, which is, if you were in your car, it would take 6 or 7 hours to drive. So the Chautauqua Institution is a type of retreat for cultural and educational purposes. There are often well-known speakers that come in interesting programs. And someone came out and made some introductory remarks. And before Salman Rushdie said anything at all. This assailant jumped onto the stage and immediately attacked him. Eyewitnesses told me that 10, maybe 15 people almost immediately jumped on stage in an attempt to apprehend the assailant and to come to Salman Rushdie's aid. There were some doctors in the audience and some emergency medical technicians that did help him. And the suspect was apprehended and taken under arrest.
And did anybody explain what the security situation was like? Did he have any personal security that we know of?
They have not, there's been no official word on that. We know that there was some law enforcement in the venue. Two officers arrested the suspect pretty quickly. We know that there was a security system to enter the amphitheater where people had their bags checked, but we haven't been given any other information yet about exactly what the security setup was.